President Trump is making a bold move to try and solve the ongoing conflict over Iran's nuclear program. At the beginning of this month, March 2025, he announced that he had sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, urging Iran to negotiate a new nuclear peace agreement. Trump made it clear that if diplomacy doesn't work, military action could be the alternative, saying there are two ways that Iran can be handled: militarily, or you make a deal. I would prefer to make a deal. Since Trump's first term, Iran has progressively expanded its nuclear activities, enriching uranium up to 60%, which is just short of weapons-grade level. With Iran now closer than ever to developing nuclear weapons, Trump is pushing for a diplomatic breakthrough. A nuclear-armed Iran would pose an existential threat to Israel and could trigger an all-out war in this region. To the world's surprise, Trump has turned to America's greatest rival, Russian President Vladimir Putin, to mediate talks between Washington and Tehran. So let's break down the obvious. Trump seems to be working pretty much on practical and strategic decisions rather than ideology or moral principles. Iran has outright refused to negotiate directly with Trump and his administration, calling the United States the big Satan and Israel the little Satan. They don't trust Trump because during his first term, he pulled the United States out of the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal, which had limited Iran's nuclear program in exchange for lifting sanctions, and instead hit Iran with harsh economic penalties. Tehran sees no reason to talk to a leader who broke the last deal. Today, we're diving into this crazy, unfolding story. Could Russia and America actually be teaming up? Will Iran agree to stop building a nuclear bomb? And most importantly, what does this mean for Israel? Stick around as we break it all down, but first, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you stay ahead of the story as it happens. It's hard to overstate how surprising this turn of events is. For decades, Washington and Moscow have been adversaries on the global stage, with tension rising over Ukraine and a new Cold War-like standoff. Trump's relationship with Putin has always been controversial. The United States policy has treated Russia and Iran as opponents. Yet now Putin is stepping up into mediate US-Iran talks, with the Kremlin promising to help resolve the nuclear dispute. This is something few would have expected anywhere in the world. I'm meeting with Mati Shoshani here at the Russian Orthodox complex in Jerusalem. This historic Russian compound was built in 1890 for Russian pilgrims. It symbolizes Russia's deep culture and its religious ties to Jerusalem, and serves as a hub for the Russian community in Israel.
Good to see you.
Long time no see?
Yeah.
Surviving the army?
I'm doing okay. Ready to be a civilian again.
Yeah.
We're in what we call in Jerusalem, Sergei's square or yard, and the Russian compound. Several hundred years ago, the Russians, the British, the French, the Austrians,
all wanted a piece of it.
They all had a piece of it. They came and bought land in downtown Jerusalem in the old city, and these buildings still belong to them today. In fact, one of the regional courts in Jerusalem is inside a Russian-owned compound.
True.
There are churches here, there are businesses that are within the Russian operating buildings. Beautiful, beautiful area. Very complex politics.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about politics, Russia and the United States have been at odds for, I don't know, many, many years. The Cold War, it's a very dramatic situation.
The movies of the 80s.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Russia and the US have been at odds, fighting to be the superpower of not all the world, but much of the world. And this goes back all the way to the end of World War II, the Cold War, and now we're back in this really weird place in the relationship where it seems like they're these weird mix of frenemies. Under President Biden, Russia's the enemy. The US hugely supports the defense of Ukrainian war against Russia. They give them a huge amount of equipment. They give them a whole bunch of political support. They rally up Europe to support them. And Russia continues to be sort of like this big evil.
Yeah.
Trump comes into office, everything changes completely. One, he starts making a bunch of positive statements about the Russian government and about President Putin.
Personally.
And a whole bunch of negative statements against Ukrainian President Zelensky. There's two games at play in the American politics right now, and I should say American international footprint. One is, what are they doing directly?
Yeah.
And two, in 5 years and 3 years, at the end of Trump's term, who are their enemies and who are their allies? When you look at U.S. relations around the world, you have to think about the fact that they're fighting in multiple fronts or have multiple fronts that they need to be considering. So Russia plays into that. And now we can go back to where we are today. The U.S. going to the Russian government in a sort of indirect way and saying, hey guys, maybe you want to be part of the conversation we're having with Iran.
But why would they want to help the U.S. against Iran? Because Iran is supplying drones and weapons to Russia in its war against Ukraine.
Yeah.
And also, Iran is buying weapons from Russia.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Right?
So it's almost as if we're talking to the same people, but different conversations. So one conversation the U.S. government is having is Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
That's one conversation. President Trump has been incredibly clear. We want to have an agreement as soon as possible, as strong as possible, and we're not sure it's going to be for the best of the Ukraine. That's their words, not my words. That's one topic of conversation. That thought bubble is completely separate from the next thought bubble, which is the Middle East. And in the Middle East, the U.S. and Israel and everyone else, we want to have an agreement as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Israel can't continue to fight indefinitely. And the U.S. wants to be able to sort of, set a flag in the ground and say,
we're back.
We're back, we won, we bartered this deal, let's move on from this conversation.
Yeah.
And to do that, they're saying some very strong words. They're saying on the one hand, we're willing to use military action against the Iranians.
Yeah, that's one. That's a letter of Trump to Khamenei.
Yes.
Like, we might do this peacefully, or we can send our forces in, your choice.
Exactly, and we'd rather do it the nice way.
Yeah.
We would rather do it the nice way. So if we can do it the nice way, we need to have an agreement. But so far, the Iranians have expressed incredible distrust of the Americans.
Yeah, they've keep chanting death to America, death to Israel. America is the big Satan, Israel is the small Satan.
But it's more than that. They go back to Trump's previous term, and they say, when he was in office, he withdrew from the agreement we had.
Yeah.
He left the sanctions or applied sanctions to us that we're still sort of suffering from today. We don't want to go back into that, and we also don't want to negotiate when there's no good trust. And the trust that's missing in their mind is that the U.S. is saying, we can do this nicely, or I'm going to punch you in the face right now. The U.S. goes to Russia in an indirect way and says, maybe you're the ones who can help bring them to the table and barter some kind of deal.
And they can, because Russia is like a key ally partner of Iran.
Yes, I don't know that their interests are aligned. They've had a very, very long and very tense relationship. They do sell a lot of weapons to each other.
Yeah.
And Russia always was a big supplier of the Iranians and also a big buyer of what they have to sell.
Yeah, they buy a lot of drones, and then Iran bought a lot of S-300 aerial defense systems, so it goes both ways.
Exactly.
The old West versus East divide isn't so clear anymore. The United States president and a Russian leader are teaming up while Europe and Iran watch with doubt. The world isn't just two sides fighting for control. It's a messy, shifting game where unexpected alliances are forming. But for Israel, at this point, it's less about the alliance and more about the nuclear deal. No country is more anxious about Iran's nuclear program than Israel. For Israel, the prospect of a new Iran deal mediated by Russia elicits a mix of cautious optimism and concerns. On one hand, anything that stops Iran's ability to build a nuclear weapon is a welcome development for the Israeli security. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has long warned that a nuclear-armed Iran would pose an existential threat to the Jewish state. If Putin's involvement can help seal an agreement that actually stops Iran short of the bomb, Israel would be happy.
We're here in downtown Jerusalem, a place full of life, history, and resilience.
Mati, growing up here, this was a whole different experience. Terror was raging, bus bombings on our way to school right here in the city.
This is what's unique about this place. It's rebuilt itself out of the ashes of countless terrorist attacks, time and time again.
From the biblical times, the enemies of God want to destroy us. So this is what's happening now. Another war. Israel is still here. We're celebrating. And thanks to your help, Israel is rebuilding. Your support has been incredible, restoring our forests and healing the land after so much destruction.
But there is still so much more to do. Israel needs your support now more than ever.
So stand with Israel. Click on the link below, plant a tree, and continue to help us rebuild.
From here in Jerusalem, it's clear Israel will always persevere and stand strong.
Mati, this is a marakia. I took Anna for our second date, my wife, for our second date there. You eat together with other people and eat soup, basically.
It's a very cheap restaurant.
Yeah, it's super cheap. It's like not a place, not romantic at all. She keeps reminding me of this.
I'm going to keep that off my date list for now.
Take a look at this amazing coffee shop in Jerusalem. So, Mati got hungry and tired, and he needs coffee to keep filming today. So that's why we're here in the middle of the program. It's very hard to walk with this guy, you know.
This place, Kadosh, I've been coming to since I was a child, and it always was some of the best pastries in the city. Amazing pastries if you're into French stuff.
Mati remembers all of our coffee choices.
Yeah, very good at ordering things. Cappuccino for the tall guy.
Cappuccino, big or small?
Katan. Anyway, where were we? Let's lay the groundwork on this. Everyone around the world understands that if Iran gets a nuclear bomb, it's a problem for the world. For two reasons.
One, they vouched to destroy Israel and the United States, you know.
One, they've been they are the most honest people that you can find when it comes to their malicious intent. Google this. What did Iran say they would do with a nuclear bomb?
Yes.
Destroy Israel.
Everything is clear.
Exactly.
No
destroy
questions.
Israel, destroy the US, destroy the Western way of life. Their whole MO is proliferation. They send out whatever they have, whatever weapons, whatever technology, whatever funds. Every crazy terrorist that they can find within 2,000 kilometers.
It's funded by them.
So what's going to happen if the Iranians get a bomb? One, it makes it incredibly difficult for Israel to attack them because you have now mutual assured destruction.
Yes, so if they launch a nuclear weapon at Israel, Israel will launch a nuclear weapon at them, and then both countries will be annihilated.
Exactly.
Basically.
So we're in an impasse where we just simply can't have them have a bomb. So it's a bad thing for Iran to have a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
They've done a lot to get a bomb, including try to buy one from North Korea, including try to buy one from the Russians. So there's three pieces. Uranium, which you can or buy off the shelf from a country that is willing to sell it to you, or enrich yourself. They enrich themselves. Two, warhead. You need to create the chain reaction that turns enriched uranium into a nuclear bomb.
Yes.
They don't have that yet. And the third one is delivery. And delivery is
ballistic missiles.
ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, or dropping it out of a plane the way the Americans did in
submarine.
Japan. Or a submarine with like a sea-to-surface missile. They don't have those, and they don't have the Air Force capability. They do have ICBMs. They're not the most accurate, and they're not the most reliable.
They're training and advancing with the Houthis now.
Exactly.
I mean, launching the missiles
But
at
if
us.
they had 10 warheads, that would be enough.
Yes.
So we're on this race against time to stop them completely. And Israel and the US have been talking openly about exploring a military option in Iran. And what that means is now we're going to launch some missiles, is that we're taking our Air Force together with American B-1 bombers and American attack fleets.
Yeah, and using bunker buster bombs to penetrate their underground nuclear facilities. And also it will collapse the government. It will collapse the regime in Iran.
Yes, and this isn't just talk. The US Air Force and the Israeli Air Force have been practicing together, carrying out for years now, not just recently, carrying out bombing missions in Iran. Now, we don't fly in the Iranian direction, but it's the same mission type that's being flown to the west that can just be flipped, put in the right coordinates and do the same attack to the east, or southeast, I guess, to Iran.
Yeah.
We have the Air Force. They have the Americans have the ability to drop that level of munitions. We have the bunker busting capabilities, and Israel has just received a huge amount of supplies from the American government that can be used against the Iranians.
And we already took off all their aerial defense systems, especially the ones that are defending their military assets. In the previous assault, after they launched missiles at us, we destroyed their S-300 defensive systems.
If you would have asked a year ago, is it feasible to carry out an attack in Iran? no one would be able, even at the highest levels of Israeli intelligence, no one would be able to answer the outcome. Will the Israeli Air Force be able to do it? Will, our intelligence be correct? Will we be able to overcome the air defense systems that the Russians sold to the Iranians? We've answered on the, let's call it a 10-item list.
Yeah.
We've answered 8 of those items already in action. And now the only question is a question of timing and what casualties we're going to take doing it. So we're in a really good place on that. And just to wrap this all up, today, unlike a year ago, the question of whether or not the US and Israel can attack Iran is a clear yes. The question of whether the American administration is willing to put maximum pressure on the Iranian government, absolute yes. And now the question is, how will the Iranians respond and what the Russian part in that agreement will be. And that's a very interesting place to be in.
Yeah, we're gonna wait and see.
Yael, I'm starving.
As always.
As always.
As always. We get paid with lunches and food and hamburgers.
That's the only payment I receive.
Trump's decision to involve Putin in nuclear talks with Iran has opened a new, unprecedented chapter in global diplomacy. It could prevent a nuclear crisis or trigger a dangerous compromise, depending on how negotiations unfold. While the whole world watches the shifting alliances between Washington, Moscow, and Tehran, no country is more affected than Israel. For Israel, this is not just a diplomatic experiment, it's a matter of survival. With deep security concerns and little faith in outside guarantees, Israel is keeping all options on the table, including military action if diplomacy fails. This high-stakes deal may reshape global power dynamics. But for Israel, one thing remains certain. Its security comes first, no matter who is at the negotiating table. And with God's always on our side, we know it will all work out for the best in the end.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.